Hey everybody, Zach here, and welcome to the 41st lesson of this RTS tutorial series. In this video, we will upgrade our player controller. That said, fire up your editor, and let's get started. Hey everybody, and welcome to the editor for the first lesson in our cleanup section. So before we fix any of the bugs, I think cleaning up some of our core code or core blueprints is important. So the first one we're going to do is our player controller. And there's a few ways we can handle this in terms of how we're going to organize it at the end, but that is up to you and how you decide you want it to look. I am going to group things by what the function does. Sorry, not what the function does. I'm going to group them by where the function is originally rooted. So if it comes from the right click, it's going to be in a comment related to right click instead of, say, related to building things only. So you could group things by what they do or where they're rooted. For the tutorial, because of the way I'm teaching this, I am going to group it by where they start. If I were doing this as an actual full-scale project, I'd be doing it by what they do because that just makes more sense for that. So let's take a look at this, just all of it. It's really kind of messy. It's really hard to follow. So we're going to start commenting things and breaking things down like this. This section is just way, well, minus that little bottom part there, is just way too much. So, well, let's identify our left click. And I think it's this one down here. Yep, that's our primary action. As part of our marquee select. We don't need to worry about this, so we're going to move this over here for now. Come back to it in a bit. We're going to break this down into just about, I'd say, 3 nodes deep, and then we'll go from there. So let's think about what the 3 nodes are going to be. We're not going to touch this branch. This one is fairly simple. We're not going to deal with it. We are going to go no deeper than 1 past this branch here. This is building mode active. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to work from this node. We're going to work straight from the left click. So we have left click is pressed. The first thing we do is we check, are we in delete mode? Okay, so if we are in delete mode, then we are going to have a branch we have a branch here that is already for deleting a construction. If it is still under construction, if not, it's just going to turn delete mode off. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a custom event, and that custom event is going to handle our delete mode. So I'm just going to scroll out a bit, find a blank spot nearby, so just the top corner here is good enough for me. I'm going to right click, do custom event, and I'll do delete construction site. There we go. I have my new custom event. I am going to delete that reroute node there. I no longer need it. Actually, I say that I probably do want it, but yeah, actually I do. I'm going to just break the connection there. I'm going to highlight everything that comes off that branch, and I'm going to move it. Ooh, I missed one of those reroute nodes. Make sure you get all your reroute nodes, like that one right there. I'm just going to move all of this up here, and I'm going to plug that branch, or sorry, that event into the branch there. And actually I want to probably make this a bit neater. We're going to drag that down, plug that back in, didn't mean to unplug it. Highlight all of this, including that reroute and including the one I just deselected there. Okay, I missed a couple of the things I deselected. Just gonna, eventually I'll get everything highlighted in 2 goes. There we go. Just give it a bit of room. And we're going to clean this up, just make it a little bit tighter and neater looking so it's a little bit easier to follow. We're going to bring that into there. So on this one, we're just going to leave that delete down here. We don't need to have this reroute in because we're just going to go straight into the sequence instead. So I'm just going to bring the sequence down here. And you can leave the reroute in. It doesn't really matter. It's what visually works for you. I just want something that's smaller and visually easier for me to read. All right, so we have this delete preview. I'm just going to highlight all of it and comment it out as, well, not comment it out, just surround it with a comment with delete preview. Actually, because it's a comment, I don't need to worry about Pascal casing. There we go. And off this reroute, I'm just going to drag off and type delete construction site. So now that we left click and we have our delete mode active, it goes here and then goes to that event. It's that simple. We're just going to keep doing this. Now, there will be some things we'll do beyond this to make this work even more efficiently, but this is just the first step. So I'm going to probably comment in the details, in the description below, when we get to things like cleaning up this and making this into multiple functions that actually work a little bit better. We kind of have that already, but we'll deal with it in a slightly different way. So that's our first one. Now, our next one we have to deal with after that, if we keep following this logic, so we go, is delete mode active? We already dealt with the true, so false. Is build mode active? So we have this, let's deal with the shorter one first. We have this false. And that is when we start our marquee select there. So, easiest way to handle that is we're going to do one that says start marquee select. And again, we're just going to right click, and I have a lot of room to the side there. So custom event, start marquee select. And I'm just going to break that reroute. Actually, I'm going to delete it, not break it. I'm just going to drag this down here. Move the marquee ref a tiny bit. Plug that into there. And then just, again, make it a little bit easier to read. We have this nice, neat little straight line. So I'm going to name this one on left click. I just typed in the wrong screen, however. Sorry about that. On left click. There we go. And again, I need to tell it to trigger this event. So on this false now, we're going to do on marquee select, or start marquee select, sorry. I don't know why I said on. All right. And then we have, where's that other marquee thing from a minute ago? We have this other part of the marquee part, which is just updating where the mouse is. We're going to move this over here. I moved it the wrong way. I'm going to scroll out. We're going to move this over here towards the other on left click marquee item there. I'm just going to put a comment around this, and this will be update mouse location. That way I know what this is related to the marquee select. And both of these items together, I say it this way. Now this way I know it's both related to the marquee. I'm going to comment them both out as marquee selection. There we go. I now have this flagged as being related to the marquee selection, so I know what this does. And yes, we're pretty much done with the marquee selection. We will make some updates to it in a later video in this section, cleaning up a little bit of not a bug, but something that I just overlooked that would make it a little bit easier if we didn't have to deal with it. Okay, so now we have this long branch left here that goes on for a bit, and that is building mode active? Well, we could, now this is comprised of multiple functions already, so fortunately I am just going to leave it as is. If these weren't already functions, we would have to go in and actually start making functions, but since we're calling a lot of things from like the building preview, the building master, or the construction master, and the construction preview, we already had to have as functions, so that makes life a wee bit easier. So we're just going to grab that, we're going to break it, and this will be start construction preview. So I'm going to right click again, custom event, start construction preview. I'm going to plug that directly into there. There we go. And I just realized I haven't fixed this in my preview version. I still have these backwards, which makes less sense. I was wondering why I suddenly had a lot more, had to have a lot more distance between this event and the first branch. You know, it's fairly neat already, fortunately. So we're just going to highlight everything there, and I'm going to unhighlight the two things down here that we grabbed with it. And we're just going to move this off to the side for half a second. And we're going to comment this out as spawn construction preview. Or comment around it. Spawn. Let me just move the screen so I can see what I'm typing. spawn construction preview. And we have a delete preview up here, which I've now just accidentally shrunk there. Sorry about that. We're going to drag that down there. And we're going to group these in another comment. So these will be our construction commands. There we go. So we have our marquee select, we have our construction commands, and we can start making this just a little bit neater again. We're just going to grab all of that. Going to bring that down here. Going to bring this bit next to it. There we go. And you know, we can tighten this up a fair amount now, actually. We can drag this in. Let's go straight down there. I am going to get rid of that reroute in the end, I guess. Plug that straight into there. And likewise, do the same down here. Just make this a little bit smaller, just so it's a little bit neater. Again, it doesn't really matter. It's just how easy is it to read and follow. So, before I comment out this entire section as my left-click commands, what I was saying earlier about how you group things, notice we have the marquee selection, which really should probably go with the left-click. But we have these construction-related commands here for spawning in the preview, for deleting the preview. We also have up here our rotate building. So you might want to have a comment box instead of left-click. So instead of this, where it's going to be left-click commands, you might want one that's construction commands instead. So this is just how I'm going to do it for the tutorial. So when I refer to things, I can go to where it occurs at. In an actual project, it would be, you know, my left-click command commented out, and then I'd have a section for construction, a section for unit-related commands, and then have each of these events inside of there. So the left-click is fairly easy to take care of. I am, however, because of this construction bit over here, going to grab these bits here. First off, I'm going to just grab this without grabbing that comment box below it. Bring it up here for a moment. I'm going to grab all of this. I'm just going to bring it down here. All right, and then I'm going to grab the lower half of this and move it down. And I'm just going to highlight all of this. Actually, I'm going to highlight both parts of this. And this is going to be rotate construction previews. And I'm just going to leave this near where we had those construction commands from earlier, just because it makes sense having them somewhat near each other so that it's easy to follow the logic being used again. All right. Now we have, before we get into the right click, which is a really messy bit of this video, to be fair, let's take a look at what else we can comment out. Well, we're going to comment these out as, really quickly, as debug cheats, just because that's what they're used for. We will be getting rid of these in the next section, though. So these are our debug cheat commands, spawn in unit and vehicle. And I'm just going to leave these over here because I'm going to get rid of them. I don't want them anywhere near sort of the code I'm going to be thinking about for the most part. I'm going to move the pan controls up this way. Again, just this is for more me. It makes sense that I have my movement controls on one line. All right, the event tick. Well, I'm just going to comment that out as event tick. That way I know where to find the tick easily when I'm scrolled out on a massive screen. So I can see the word tick fairly easily. This is our event begin play. I'm just going to move it all the way over here. There we go. And put my tick right there, right above the 0, 0 spot. That's where those two dark lines actually meet. All right, so we have my tick, my event begin play. You know, I already have a comment. This should be first. I could make comments about other things in there, but I'm just going to skip that bit. All right, so what do we have here? We have our send occupants. Well, we can deal with that one in a moment. We have to deal with the right click fully first. So, the right click is a bit of a tough one to deal with. So we're going to kind of deal with this one backwards. We're not going to work down the branches like we did earlier. We're going to work from back here. And we know we're going to need kind of 4 events. So we're going to need move to vehicle, we're going to need move to location, we're going to need move to building, and move to resources. So I'm just going to create those 4 events right away. First off, I'm also going to move this out of the way for a little bit, because otherwise it's going to be slightly difficult for me to think about this. So we're going to do custom event, and this will be move to, sorry, can't remember what order I did with them, vehicle. So move to vehicle. There we go. Move to building is next. So custom event, move to building. And the other reason why we do this is when it comes to C++, which is a hybrid language, it's procedurally orientated and it's object orientated mixed together. You try to have everything sort of self-contained. We have done this in a lot of procedural ways in the layout of our nodes. Now we're going to want to move towards a more object-oriented focus because it will allow for us to do more complex tasks. So custom event, move to resources, and did I name it move to, they're not going to be this close in the end, by the way, move to location. So custom event, simple move, move to, actually it is going to be simple move to. I'm calling it simple move to so I don't get confused with this move to location node. Alright, so we've got that set up. I am just thinking about how I want to do this. So I want to deal with a lot of the little things. Move to vehicle. Forgot we collapsed it down to a macro there, didn't we? Alright, so let's do our simple move to first. That's actually the easiest thing to deal with. I think I say that. Actually, you know what? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to collapse this down to a macro or a function here if we can. Let's find out. Nope, we can't collapse that to a function. We can only collapse this down to a macro. So we will collapse this to a macro. Oh yeah, the reason why we can't collapse it to a function is macro functions have to be pre-compiled. You can't pre-compile this. You can only do this as a macro. So that'll be a macro, and that'll be our move to macro. Yeah, so I'm actually putting the word macro in there. I'm going to unpin that for a minute. All right. We are just going to reuse this macro a fair amount. So the first thing we need on our move to simple location there is we're going to plug this macro in. Also, so I don't forget to have that on there, I'm going to bring one into here because I got it from there. You can skip that step if you want. We will do it eventually. So we had that move to macro there. And then I'm going to take my function at the end here, this remove decal function, and I'm going to plug that into there at the very end of it. However, to get that to work, what I need to do is what we're going to do is we're going to have all these outputs. We're going to have that one there, on request failed, and on move finished. Compile, save, and our macro kind of now looks like I did earlier, and this is going to be on move finished. Just going to line that up. There we go. That's our simple move to setup. Well, we can delete this out now. And let's just do move to, simple move to. Sorry if you can hear my dog having a dream in the background. I'm sure he's chasing squirrels. All right, so our move to building, we'll take care of that one next. We'll do this one later in the series. Actually, we'll just plug in the function now, or the call to the function now. So it's going to be move to resources. It doesn't do anything because there's nothing at the end of this yet. So yeah, it's not going to do much for us. Okay, so the next little bit is we have the move to building, and all we're going to do is just unplug that and drag this over here. See, the reason why I did this setup in the earlier video is I knew we were going to do this because I already did the cleanup in the prep file about halfway into the recording of the last section. That is section 5. I don't know why I forgot the number there for just a split second there. Okay, so the last little bit we have is this this bit, and honestly, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to literally copy this as is. Actually, no, I'm not, because I shouldn't have that. We are going to have a very different look to this section later on. We are going to, so I need to drag in and move to location. Boom. I've already shown you the bug here. We'll clean that up probably in the next video. So there we go. We move to the vehicle. We have that move to, we get into vehicle. We'll be getting rid of this macro, just FYI, just to make things a little bit easier. And let's just plug in the move to building. Boom. And move to vehicle. Boom. All right. There we go. Just going to line these up. Now, the next little bit, I'm going to go into this macro, this unit movement macro. And we're going to cut a lot of this out. We should make this as self-contained as possible. There's a lot of little bits coming into here. So, the spot that I'm going to break this at is literally the end. I only care about this little last bit. And in fact, I'm just thinking about this before I do this. In fact, we're going to have this sequence happen earlier. So I'm just double checking everything I want to say before I do it. Yep. So we're going to come in here. We're going to break this entire output. There we go. And we're going to just move this all over here. And we're going to plug this move to target vehicle, or this target vehicle, into here. We're going to plug the building. You know what? I'm actually going to just put them all on the end of that line so I have a rough idea where they're at. There. And I'm going to line that up as much as I can with that. Slide that forward to that line as well. Move to resources. And likewise, this move to location. There we go. All right. I'm going to break this off. And I'm going to come to the very start here, and I'm going to grab that input. And actually, I'm not going to grab that input. I'm going to grab all of this. And the start of it. I'm just going to move it out of the way. Way out of the way. And I'm going to grab all of this stuff and move it back towards the input. So I have the stop movement. Actually, I lied. We're going to get rid of the stop movement as well. The stop movement can go up here where we already broke it. Plug that into there. So we have a self-contained macro that is literally getting our movement target instead. So we're going to rename this macro as well. So this will be, where is this? It's called unit movement. We're going to rename this. And I'm just going to open up my OBS to make sure I don't stop recording. As get movement target. Because this is just returning what we're targeting to. And then we begin our movement. Okay. We still need all this stuff though. Well, most of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a function that will be stop previous command. So what I'm going to do that is I'm going to break this reroute. Actually, yeah, I'm going to break this reroute. And we're going to leave this open for a second. I'm going to close out everything else but the event graph and the event graph, this viewport, sorry, and this particular macro. We're going to create a function called stop previous command, as I said. So create new function, stop previous command. We're going to come in here. We're just going to take all of this code, or this entire string, grab it and cut it out and paste it into here. And we're going to plug that is valid. So is the previous location valid? You know, if so, then destroy the component for it. So that's very simple, move to location. If it is a building, then we're going to clear the building out. If neither of these are true, then we're just going to keep moving forward. And we're going to have that stop movement at the end. And then we'll have our return node. Sorry, not return resources. Ignore that. This will be our return node. Compile that. I'm going to leave this open as well. Go back to our event graph. And we're going to break that connection there. Just going to select all this for a second, move it out. We're going to get our stop previous command. We're going to plug that into our get movement target. Okay. Now, before that, we're going to need a macro that will get our unit details. So let's go back into our get movement target because we have that actually in there. This little bit right here is our unit details. So let's see what we want. We want all of this actually. We want everything up to the sequence. We're just going to unhook that. We're going to cut this for a second. We're going to go back to our event graph, and we're just going to paste it in a really weird spot for half a second. We're going to paste it up here. And we're going to plug this into the stop movement and into the sequence prior to it. So I'm just going to grab the set AI, plug it into there, grab this branch, plug it into there. With it still highlighted, I'm going to right-click on one of the nodes, and I'm going to do collapse to macro. And this macro will be get unit details. And now I can deal with the awkwardness of where it's put and just kind of slot it into there. Okay, compile and save. We have our regular move vehicles down there, which is fine. All right, so we have move vehicles, we have move unit details, stop previous command. Now the reason we don't need, let me just clean this up a tiny bit so it's a little bit nicer looking. Come on. There we go. Just make that a little bit nicer looking, a little bit more easy to read and visually less jarring. Now we have this last stop movement. Now we don't really need this anymore with this new setup. We could keep it. Now I'm just going to double check that we still have our hit actor there. We do. Okay. Yeah, we don't need this anymore. If you really wanted an extra stop movement, you know, between clicking and them moving again, you could create another function where there's just you could just put another stop movement into our move to, but that's unnecessary. Okay, so we're just going to delete that. We don't need it anymore. Compile, save. Let's go back to our event graph. Okay, so we now have this nice little setup. Let's make sure everything still works. We don't have a building spawned in, so let's spawn a building in. There we go. All right, so we have a bit of a problem. Our left click isn't working. Our right click is. Why is our left click not working? Let's make sure our units still move. So something is wrong with our, that's our right click that should move units, sorry. Let's actually make sure our units are responding correctly. Yes, they are. Okay, so let's double check why the building isn't working. Oh, yeah, very obvious mistake there. I forgot to put in the start construction preview. Start construction preview. There we go. That was just a stupid mistake on my part. All right, maybe we do need a little bit more room. I was wondering why it looks so much smaller compared to my preview version of this. There we go. Spawn a building in. Hello, spawned in building. Get a unit, send it to the building. There we go. And you can see the building is constructing. Spawn a couple more units in, make this build even faster. There we go. Boom. Building is finished. Send our units away. Spawn a vehicle in. Watch our units try to get into it. There we go. Oh yeah, there was more than enough there. Your vehicle still moves. Okay, so that's all cleaned up. Okay, let's just move this over here for now because it calls that up. There we go. Now we could, in theory, I mean, we already have that there with the destroy preview connected, and that's in our building preview. We could, in theory, collapse this bit down, but I don't want to. You could if you wanted. So all we're going to do instead is just neaten this up a tiny bit. So we have that straight line coming off there. It comes off there. I'm just going to grab this and make that a straight line as well, or as straight as it will let me make it. I don't know why it's not lining up, but okay. Do the same with that one. Just drag that up there. There we go. And yes, I'm not putting a reroute there. I do like how that looks for some reason. It's visually easy for me to follow. And again, this is all visual, so it should be easy for you to follow. This is all really simple stuff we're doing. So that is our right-click command. What's this up here again? This is our send occupants. Oh yeah, we're going to be getting rid of that. So I'm not going to worry too much about that down the road. So I'm just going to comment everything out. This will be move to resources. I'll move to resources. I'll resize this in a minute to match our move to building because it's going to be the exact same size as our move to building. All right. This will be our move to building. I guess I'm going to cheat a tiny bit because I know it's going to be the same size. It's literally going to be the same number of nodes with very similar name lengths. This is our move to vehicle, which will also be pretty much the same sort of nodes there. Move to vehicle. I'm just going to group them like this. Try to have them again roughly the same size. And move to location. Okay. And then we have our remove decal. So I'm just going to name this as destroy movement decal. And I'm going to drag that into there a tiny bit. Let's get our HUD. So I'm just going to plop that one under there because it's where I have it in the preview file. I'm going to move these out of the way for this next bit. Just drag these over here and place them. Undo what I just did there. Sorry about that. I just changed the size of one of the comments by mistake. Just grab all of that and comment this out as our right click commands. There we go. So we have our left click and our right click commands. I'm going to just drag this underneath our left click. Okay, so we have our rotate building, we have our movement commands, we have our cheat commands commented out, we have our tick commented out. I know we're going to get rid of this, so I'm just going to move this bit up here because I know I'm going to get rid of it shortly. And I'm going to move all of this now here. So the major cleanup we really did in this, outside of just shorting out some of these nodes, or some of these processes, was cleaning up our movement commands so that we actually have, isolated events occurring within our macros and our functions. It just makes it a little bit more object orientated. It gives us a bit more freedom. We can call this command whenever we want now. We don't need to create a new macro for it. Okay, so again, let's test everything out, make sure it still works. Spawn a building in. See, it's eating at my resources still. I didn't check that last time. Put a couple of units in, move them to the building. Put a couple more in, put a vehicle in. Oh yeah, I don't have multi-select on this version. Oops. Sorry, I held down an extra key to see if I have to get multiple select work. That's actually something I'm doing in my isometric RPG work. Move the vehicle. Move the vehicle so it stops somewhere. Oh, please stop moving. That building will be constructed by the time you stop moving. There we go. It stopped moving. And release our passengers. Okay, all 4 came out, surprisingly enough. I say that because of the glitch I know that's there that we'll deal with in a later video. So that kind of takes care of the major sort of cleanup we can do. You know, you might want to go through and look at something, let's say, in your game settings, you know. We already have a fairly neat and clean up version of everything in here. Everything is self-contained. So everything looks good there. Similar with our actual marquee selection. Again, everything is self-contained. In fact, we can comment things. Actually, we'll comment things out on this in a later video because we are going to make one update to this to make things work a little bit better. So again, this is all really simple stuff, but you should be trying these things out on your own if you're learning this material. You should be practicing what looks right to you, but you should also remember that when you do this stuff, when you do anything related to blueprints or C++, you should be making things as self-contained as possible, where it can be pre-compiled. So stop movement. We don't need to know what the movement is. We just need to stop it. But on this one, where it's moved to target, we need it has to be pre-compiled. It can't be pre-processed. It has to kind of work in the moment because we're spawning in something that's going to change. We can't, pre-guess that. We should be making these macros or these functions as needed to make these self-contained processes so we can call them when needed. Also, actually, you know what we're going to do in terms of cleanup? This is just really, really not good. So we're going to move this to our HUD folder. Set building mode active will be player state, just so we have that in there. Check construction status will be under construction. I think we have a construction thing in here already. It's construction variables. Construction. So check building status. Check construction status, sorry. Set building. Actually, no, we're going to move that because we don't have any other states. We're going to move that into construction as well. So we don't have one for set delete state. Check resources is a construction event, so we're going to move that into construction. Reduce resources is a construction event, so we're going to move that into construction. Sorry, I said set building mode active as construction, so we're going to move that into construction as well. Let's see. Return resources is, again, construction. And stop previous command is unit movement or unit commands. So we're going to call this a unit commands. There we go. So we now have our functions all in nice, neat little areas. See our macros. We have, what's left over? Get movement target. Well, we should move that to our movement command. It's actually already in here. Oh, sorry, that's movement for our camera. We're going to rename this as camera movement now, just so we don't get confused. Camera movement. Likewise, the edge scroll will now go into camera movement. This will go into unit movement or unit commands. Vehicle movement will go into unit commands as well. Whoops, I just put that in construction. Sorry about that. Unit commands. Get in vehicle. Well, I know we're going to delete that, so we'll put this in a thing called to be deleted. Move to macro will be in our unit commands. And get unit details will be part of our unit commands, because that's what it's related to. Again, there we go. Everything is nice and neatly organized. All right. So that really kind of takes care of cleaning things up. This should be a little bit easier to read, a little bit easier to follow. We are going to be deleting this, so I'm going to comment that out as to be deleted. I just, for some reason, put a semicolon in there. Cool. I know where this hasn't been too much, but again, I want you to be thinking about why we have cleaned it up this way, why we have done these things. Not only the visuality of it, not only is it easier to kind of parse apart now, but in parsing it apart, what are you noticing about the setup? What are you noticing about what the features and functions are doing? Spend some time reflecting on that. Go through a similar process for the other blueprints. To be fair, if you're thinking about getting into coding, this is one of the harder parts about coding, is conceptualizing code in this way. And doing this visually gives you that benefit. It lets you actually see how all the little bits and pieces go together. So if you want to get into coding, work on this a bit. Learn how this works, and you will be able to kind of master one of the harder parts of coding pretty early on, at least in my opinion. So that said, in the next video, we're actually going to get into fixing the marquee selection and the vehicle problem, which means we will get to these deleted parts. That said, if you've liked this video, drop a like down in the comment down below. If you want to see anything particular in this series or in this section, if you find any bugs that I haven't noticed, let me know in the comments, and I will try to address those or add it into the series if it's something outside of the bugs. And as always, I hope to see you in the next tutorial, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.